conditioning for basketball, just meaning trying to improve your cardiovascular endurance for basketball, because basketball is very endurance-based, but there's also a lot of sprints mixed in. So conditioning for basketball, the best way to get in basketball shape is to play basketball. So during your season, you don't really want to add any more conditioning for basketball. You don't want to add extra sprints and go run 3 miles. You don't want to do that because that's extra breakdown on your body, your tendons, your central nervous system, etc., when you're already going to get enough of that from your practices and from your games. Now, if you, let's say, you don't get as many minutes. Let's say you're not a starter on your team. Let's say you play varsity, but you're like the 9th man and it's a close game and you never get in the game.
Right.
Then maybe if you don't get that same conditioning as the starters do who play, 35, 40 minutes, then you might want to go ahead and do some extra conditioning to keep your cardiovascular endurance up.
Okay.
Other than that, that's really all that I have to say about conditioning. In season, get your conditioning from basketball itself, from your games and your practices.
Now, what if so my thing is what if you don't want to prioritize conditioning just during basketball season, right? So like when you're out of basketball season, you want to do other things, like you want to keep your conditioning up by doing those things if you're not playing basketball, right? So like say you're not hooping on the side, you're not, going out, to the rec, whatever you're doing. If you're not getting your conditioning that way, then would you say to put that conditioning into your workouts during off season?
Yes,
okay.
I would. However, off season really isn't the time to work on your conditioning either.
Right.
It's kind of crazy because you only have so much energy and you only have so much time.
Right.
So off season, when you don't really need to be conditioned, you really don't need to spend your time and your energy on building up your cardiovascular endurance because there's really nothing to build it up for. You're going to build it up for what? The off season? You're in. Some people like this. They say, if you stay in shape, you don't got to get in shape.
Right.
That's okay, but I'd rather spend my time and energy on things off season, like strength training, like heavy lifting, power development, speed development, stuff like that. Now, where conditioning is actually important is in your preseason, because you don't want to jump into your season being the guy that's really out of shape and never got back into shape for basketball season.
And when does that start? So normally for a basketball player,
I would start about 2 months before your season's going to come. I would start getting in shape for basketball, because another thing is big spikes in load are what hurts your tendons. So if you just do nothing and you never get in basketball shape and you never do your conditioning, and then you just go and your coach starts killing you during season, chances are you're going to overload your tendons because you never built up to that big spike in load.
Okay.
So,
and one last thing too, before we kind of move on to the next thing, you coach a high school basketball team right now.
Correct.
So are you seeing anything like, or any high school players out there on your team currently that are struggling with the conditioning that you're putting them through because maybe they didn't do anything over the summer, would you say?
Yes, but right now we're really just doing open gyms.
Okay.
So everybody seems fine for open gym. Most of the kids on my team, they like going to the rec. They play pickup. They've played all summer. Now, of course, there's 1 or 2 kids who haven't, and they do look out of shape.
Right.
But right now is open gyms, so we do open gym 2 times a week. So this is kind of the conditioning before we get into that preseason that is going to build them up for the season.
Okay, and as a coach, I know I said last thing last time, but this is truly the last thing as a coach, and I just want to get people in the mindset of what you're thinking, what their coach might be thinking. If you are not doing those things, if you're kind of behind on those things as a coach, what is your mindset when you see those kids that are players that are struggling, that have not put in that work in the summer that they needed to? Like, just be brutally honest. I mean, what is your first thought?
My first thought is just to shake my head and say that you don't really want it.
Okay.
That's my first thought.
So now you guys know.
Right.
Now you know.
Right. So as a coach, if I see that and I see you haven't really developed, whether it's conditioning or any of your skills, a lot of the kids come back and I'm like, you really didn't even improve over summer. I just kind of shake my head and I'm like, it just seems like basketball isn't what you really want.
Right.
You really don't want it bad enough.
I get it. Okay. Fair enough.